Welcome to Own the Chaos. The stock market is crazy and chaotic.
And crash. You son
Oh, God. Hold on. Pause.
Brad and Fat Man Zoom are here to help you own it.
They were targeting Wall Street when they should have been targeting Capitol Hill. They should have been targeting DC. This is the same thing, and this is what people keep missing.
Taking it to the suits, being relatable and hilarious.
You bought GameStop at 400, didn't you? To the moon, baby. To the moon.
Get ready to own the chaos in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Own the Chaos, everybody. Hi, my name is Brad. The stock market is crazy and chaotic. We made it our mission to help you guys own it. Is the Santa Claus rally over before it even really got started? We're going to answer those questions today. We're looking at the stock market right now. The S&P is actually red, turned red a little bit, just barely. I mean, we're down 0.03%. It's good for 1.67 points on the S&P 500. The Dow is actually still green, though. We're still green on the Dow. It's up 113 points. And NASDAQ taking the biggest hit. It's down 0.5%. We do have oil still sitting at $76, and that's going to be an interesting conversation later in the show as well. But welcome, guys. As always, let's hit up the starting five. We got Baker Toon, Eric Brands, Oliver Thorpe, Sean Dupuis, Rudy Brown. What's up, you guys? You're the starting five. Thanks for showing up early. We appreciate it. And, guys, if you're new to the show, that's how it works. You show up early, you get a shout-out, and, happens every day. Every day before every day at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. We go live Monday through Thursday. It's just your boy, B. Smith, today. Fat Man Zoom is actually out of town. I swear, one week, we'll have a week where it's the two of us in the same spot for a week straight. But this whole December, man, it's been pretty crazy. So, obviously, I'm back in the studio. I'm out of COVID jail. I can't even fathom what's going on here. I'm out in the real world again, which is awesome. I still have a little bit of symptoms here, just like kind of carrying over. I don't have COVID anymore, but like the cough is annoying. It's really annoying. And the lack of taste and smell, really depressing as well. I would love to taste whatever is, in this vicinity. That would be great. If I could smell it, that would be awesome. If I could taste it, that would be even better, especially for somebody who loves to cook. For somebody who loves to cook like myself, can't taste shit. It's driving me crazy. But anyways, I'm better. I could be worse. So I'm going to be grateful for it. Just had to get that out of the way. And thanks so much for you guys giving me the support and the well wishes and all that good stuff. I've had so many of them. So I really can't thank you enough. You guys are great. I certainly appreciate the well wishes and all that good stuff. But later on in the show, too, I want you guys to put some questions down in the chat here as well. What are you looking at? What are you worried about going into 2022? What was the most important thing that you learned in 2021? I know we touched on that a little bit, but we didn't get as much of a response as I would hoped. So we're going to renew that question as well. What was one of the things that you learned the most about 2021? And what was the most surprising thing about 2021 as well? I threw a lot at you. So I feel like I need to get something out of you in the chat. So make sure you're putting it down in there so we can have a conversation about it later on. But is the Santa Claus rally over? What's going on? I mean, we had a crazy run on Thursday before Christmas. And then yesterday, stock market went wild. And then today, it's kind of wishy-washy. We got the Dow that's green, but then the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ is down. So what's going on? I think there is a little bit of concern revolving around Omicron still. And I think that's probably some of the hesitations. We've seen some stuff go on, guys. I mean, we're seeing the airlines really kind of take a hit because they're continuing to cancel flights because of the lack of staffing due to Omicron. We're also seeing, a lot of other issues revolving around travel. It's interesting, though, because and let's not forget sports. I mean, my God. I mean, could another NFL player get COVID? I mean, did we get them all yet? Because it sure seems like it. That's just the crazy part about the whole thing. And then yesterday, we have news from the CDC that you don't have to quarantine now for 10 days, that it's acceptable that if you're vaccinated and you're asymptomatic, that you could only quarantine for 5, which thanks for nothing, CDC. Could have actually had, Christmas with somebody other than just me, myself, and I. That would have been nice. Shit. But anyways, that's what's kind of going on. I think there's a couple of things. One of them, that there's some profit taking, it looks like, that's taking place in preparation for what's going on in 2022. That's certainly a theory, but then also Omicron is kind of still wreaking havoc, and it's just spreading like wildfire. The bright side of this though is that we are seeing that Omicron isn't really as deadly. It's more or less uh, a really bad cold. That's kind of really what the general consensus is at this point. I'm gonna speculate that I had Omicron. If I didn't, if it was Delta or something like that, it still was nothing more than a really bad cold for somebody like me who's vaccinated, relatively healthy, I would like to think. So I think that today was just a little bit of a breather, almost more or less of just saying, "Hey, are we sure we're sure that things are going to be okay?" And I think that the answer is yes. And really, the markets aren't really as far down as they should. As It's not a bad day. It was crazy in the morning, though. We saw some really nice surges in the morning, and then things have kind of settled back. And I think that's all it is. We saw such a huge day yesterday, and if the day ends a little bit mixed, so be it. I still think that the rally continues going into actually next year, meaning the first half of next week. I think we could still see some continuation of some buying. There's going to be a lot of optimism surrounding around the markets in general because of the way the economy is doing. Everything is going to be opening back up. There's a lot of optimism that Omicron could actually peak around January 9th. We're seeing a couple of reports that could be the potential peak of Omicron. And if it's one thing that we've seen from the other variants is that when the market dips in fear of said variants, it usually bottoms well before the peak. We saw that with the Delta variant over the summer, right? And I think that we very well could have seen the bottom of whatever correction it was earlier in December. And I think that was the bottom. So I think that we can continue to go up. I went out on a limb on Twitter. Go follow me at Own the Chaos. At the beginning of the month, when the stock market tanked, we saw the SPY sitting around 450, actually dipped below 450 very briefly, but we talked about it here on the show. And I said, I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm calling 483 on SPY by year's end. And we are getting pretty damn close. I thought 480 was definitely going to be a thing. So I just chose 483 just to kind of be bold predictions, right? That's what we do on this channel. We give bold predictions. So I think 43 is still very much on the table, by the way. Let's take a look at SPY right now. As you can see, it's just barely in the red, but we're at 476. It's not going to take a whole lot to get it to 43. I think maybe we could hit it. I think there's certainly potential for that to get there. But, maybe yesterday we got a little bit ahead of ourselves and it's settling down today. So, but no, Santa's still here. Santa hasn't left. I think the Santa Claus rally is still very much intact. And, history has shown us that when we start off strong in a rally like this going into year end, we usually end strong. So I don't think that there's going to be some terrible pullback or anything like that. I think there's a lot of optimism around. There's a lot of cash that was sitting on the sidelines in fear of Omicron, right? In the beginning, I think there's a lot of institutions that just pulled their money and set it off to the side. And now they're like, we probably should just put it back in. Omicron isn't actually as bad as we thought it was. And I think that's some of what we're seeing too. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on the rally. It's still going to be imperative, in my opinion. I saw somebody mention this earlier. I think it was before we even went live. I actually wanted to make sure I touched on this. Where's it at? Shoot, I lost it. I should have pulled it up before I even as I was thinking about it. I should have pulled it up, but it is what it is. Just talking about how, there's going to be situations in which you want to be in quality, and whoever said it, make sure that they give me a shout out. Oh, here it is. It's Oliver Thorpe. Oliver Thorpe said, start off great today, then bam, quality over quantity is the way forward for now. For sure. My blue chips doing great. And my specs, let's not talk about that. Yeah, so that's the thing. And we've been talking about that leading up to now, is that it's going to be really important to just be in good quality companies. Good quality is going to be what's going to serve you well. And I'm looking at stocks like FedEx, Berkshire Hathaway B shares, Facebook, aka Meta Platforms, is in the green. Apple's taking a little bit of a backseat, but whatever. Caterpillar, these are all good stocks, good quality companies that are green today. And AutoZone, I'm looking at AutoZone. That was a hell of a breakout. Amazon's even green. Disney, I mean, probably one of the big reasons why the Dow is still green is because Disney did really well today. Our group play, if you guys recall, I got 150 strikes on those. So those are doing pretty darn good. That was kind of our group play. Feeling good about that Disney trade. So yeah, good quality stocks is going to be what's going to serve you well. And it is actually, in my opinion, I think also going to serve you well going into 2022. I have a video coming out about whether or not I think the stock market is going to crash next year. I feel like I always do this annually just to gauge the markets and see where we're headed. I had an unfavorable response last year when I put out that in 2021 we would not see a stock market crash. People lost their ever-loving mind that I was insane. The stock market's going to crash. It's up too high. Blah, 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 blah. What do we see? 2, 3, 5% corrections in the S&P all year. People, man, it's like not cool to be in the overs club anymore. When did that happen? Everybody's just rooting for the market to crash. Why can't people just be like, oh yeah, man, I'm going to continue to remain optimistic. Now, there's something to be said, okay? There's something to be said for being too optimistic, and you don't want, the hogs get slaughtered, right? You don't want to be too greedy. But I mean, we just got over the year prior a crash, a legitimate crash of what, 30%? The Dow came down. S&P came down 30%. So that was a legitimate crash. These 5% corrections, not crashes, people. Not crashes. I see some comments in here, and I'm loving it. I'm going to read through a couple of them. You guys are super active today, which is great. Darren said he made it this time. I love to see it, Darren. Eric Brand says he's surprised to see the airlines up today. The airlines and the cruises are also up today, which is very interesting. It's not surprising though, right? Because of what we already know about Omicron. And I think the reason that airlines and cruise lines are up today is because of what we heard from the CDC. I think that that's really, truly why those are up today. Let's take a look at Carnival Cruise Line. And that is, that's still up just barely. It's still up just barely. Let's take a look at it. So it's just up about 0.1%, a whole 3 cents. But it did shoot up earlier in the day. And I think this was in direct response to the CDC coming out and basically talking about that. The shortened, quarantine time if you find that you are infected with COVID. So, but yeah, looking at the live stream right now, we got 64 of you guys in the house. So certainly appreciate you hanging out. 21 likes, which is terrible. You all are terrible. Just kidding. I love you, but hit the thumbs up. God damn it. It takes no effort. Just hit that little blue thumbs up. I appreciate it. It does a lot more for me though. So I would appreciate you guys just show some support, hit that thumbs up. Let me know I'm doing a good job. Yeah. Don Fron says he's finally back as Fat Man Zoom gone out. Fat Man Zoom is in Mississippi visiting some family. I just said at the top of the show, Don, it just seems like neither one of us can really get in the same place at the same time. For one reason or another. Last time it was my fault because I had COVID, but it is what it is. I know. And I was just talking about this too. It's just like, you couldn't have come out with this just before Christmas. The CDC couldn't have given us a 5-day quarantine before Christmas. Like I could have actually spent time with my family, but whatever. It figures, right? Checking in on some other stuff. I like this. This is what I was talking about. So Darren says the most important thing that I learned in 2021 is to listen to Brad. I don't know about that. I mean, take what I say and then take other people's information and come up with your own decision for sure. But yeah, I mean, listen, you can listen to me, I guess. That's fine. I'm good with that. What else we got? What else did you guys learn? What else were you most surprised about? And there was so much that happened this year, guys. I mean, do you remember? Did you watch the intro? You know, Fat Man Zoom's talking about, being mad at Capitol Hill and everything else. That happened this year. That conversation took place this year. I was here at the studio. Fat Man Zoom was quarantining. Of course he was, because that's what happens in 2021. And we were talking about GameStop, the short squeeze. The GameStop short squeeze that started the whole meme stock movement happened in 2021. I think, to me, that was probably the most surprising event that took place. I mean, we saw a stock that went from $5 to $500 on a short squeeze. Roaring Kitty was a thing. Had to go to Congress and testify before Congress. Like, that shit happened. Wild stuff that happened this year. AMC obviously then followed suit, and then we saw some of the other ones. Clover and the Wall Street Bets movement took place. I mean, there was just so much that happened this year. It's crazy to think that all happened in 2021. The stocks that got us through the pandemic that did extremely well: Zoom, Peloton, some of the other ones, high flying tech stocks that ran rampant because there was no interest rates to really worry about. That's what happened. And that was just crazy to me. I think that was one of the more surprising things that I just never saw coming in 21 was the meme stock movement and how Wall Street Bets kind of took over for a short stint. Some may argue that they're still around, but I think that if you look at how some of the YouTube channels in this space, in this industry have been performing, I would say that most of them are gone. There's not a whole lot of people watching stock market channels anymore. Not like they were back in January. Certainly not like they were back in 2020. That's just how it goes sometimes. But the interest certainly has died off. And I can only conclude that that's because people lost their ass. They don't have any more money to trade. And so they're like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. We see this all the time. We saw it in 2020. Or not 2020. We saw it during the .com bubble. Everybody and their mother was trading stocks, and then they lost it all. And then they never saw them again, which is unfortunate. Right? Because those of you who are still here, and there's a lot of you that were first started trading in 2020, maybe first came across my channel when you were in 2020, or when you started trading in 2020. But those of you who listened and knew how to manage risk survived. Something to be said for that. So pat yourself on the back if you're still here. Hopefully we can get some of those other folks back and teach them a thing or two about the differences of gambling and actually investing. Ivan Broski, gotta stop messing with the dotties. Yeah. There you go. Oh, thanks, Oliver Thorpe. I appreciate you putting it back in the chat. Jim Ivory says, hear the rumor of Tesla making an offer to become a major shareholder of Mercedes-Benz. I haven't heard that. I doubt that happens. Tesla isn't in the business right now of investing in anything, I don't think, other than themselves. And every dollar they make, they might as well put back into their own company, because there are other competitors that are coming for them. Ford obviously being one that we've talked about, but you have GM, Volkswagen, some of the other ones. I don't think that Tesla, I would be surprised, and it would be a big head scratcher if they took capital from their business to invest in another business. It just doesn't make sense to me. Would be surprised. Rob T says Starbucks is shining in my portfolio. Let's take a look at Starbucks. What we got? Let's check out Starbucks here for a second and see where that's at. Starbucks, yeah, that's up 1.5%. Really solid day for them. I don't know if this is a Dow competitor or not. I don't think it is. But it's certainly in the S&P. So pretty nice day for Starbucks for sure, but it's still hanging out in this sideways channel. You can see that I tried to see if there was going to be some sort of trend break, and it just never really ended up doing it. I think there's certainly resistance here around 117.5. And if it can get up over that hump, then maybe there's something there. But hey, you know what? It's a good day today for it. Can't be mad at that. Let's go ahead and just mark this. It's a bit of a sideways channel that this has kind of just been chilling in, as you can see, right? We have had brief spikes above that, but for the most part, it's fallen right back into this channel. It's just kind of chilling there. So Starbucks really for the last, I don't know, 6-9 months has been super boring, with the exception, like I said, of a brief stint here back in July, but really hasn't done anything else. Now it's about to close today over the 200 and the 50-day moving average. So maybe there's some momentum on the side. And like I said, if we can get up over 117 and a half, might be in good shape there. But it's been kind of boring in this sideways channel. So it's been tough. But hey, listen, celebrate the wins, Rob. If you're happy with it, you're happy with it. Danny Alvarado says that's why you can never go wrong with FANG stocks and with Microsoft. I think you could put NVIDIA in that conversation too. Just really large cap tech, like mega cap tech, $1 trillion companies, for sure. Just catching up here. Here we go. Robert Fausto says, I learned in 2021 how important Brad's rules are, and big board tickers won't lose your money when you follow Brad's rules. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to, like I said, just having a little bit of common sense. And we all know this stuff, right? We all know that we shouldn't be greedy, yet somehow we do it anyway. And I actually retweeted, somebody tweeted out, give me one word that separates successful traders versus unsuccessful traders. And my one word was discipline. Taking the money when it's given to you, letting your runners run, cutting the bait when you can admit when you're wrong, just being emotionless. Some of those. Now it's easier said than done, of course, but yeah. Ivan Broski says, I saw a video where Jeremy's pumping up his small caps and saying Apple will underperform next year. I don't see it, but whatever. Yeah, Apple's not underperforming this year. It's not happening. I don't see that happening. I don't know about small caps. I think will be fine too, as long as they're making money. I mean, I don't care what YouTubers out there talking about any small caps. As long as the company's making money, I think they'll be in good shape. But especially leading into the first half of this year, I think it's going to be a very bumpy ride. Some of you may not remember or may not have been around during 2018. I'm giving a little bit of my next video away, but I think it's relevant to what we're talking about. In 2018, guess how many times Jerome Powell raised rates in 2018? 2018, by the way, economically was a phenomenal year. Real GDP was at 3%. Only happened one other time between 2018 and 2005, which was in 2015. Janet Yellen talked about tapering and all that good stuff. And then we saw a bit of a taper tantrum in 2013 when Ben Bernanke was Fed chair. That's where the term taper tantrum comes from. So I think that we could see some volatility as the taper takes place, because there's not going to be as much money going into the market to hold it up, right? It's going to rely on us and the institutions to continue on with the march of the stock market, continue to go up. So there is going to be some, I'm sorry, still getting recovered. There is going to be some volatility, I think, in the first half of this year. And I think it all starts to unfold maybe towards the end of January as we get closer to the end of the taper, which will happen in March. Remember, Jerome Powell said that there's going to be no more purchasing of bonds after March. And then we have interest rates conversation. Now, whether or not Jerome Powell actually engages in interest rate hikes each time they meet a quarter, which could be up to 3 times, that's what could cause some of the volatility in the market. Now, after that, I think there's some interesting dynamics here, because I don't know if Jerome Powell actually does raise rates every quarter for the after March. Once the tapering stops, I don't know if he actually does raise rates every quarter. I think it'll just kind of have to be one of those things where you watch and wait to see how the economy is doing. Is inflation still running rampant? Which, by the way, I don't think it does. I think that inflation has peaked this year, and I think we could see it reverse a little bit. There's going to be some sticky aspects to this. We have obviously rent that's not going anywhere. That's not going to go backwards. The rise in wages, that's not going backwards. You're not going to all of a sudden start making less money after you were given a raise, right? They just can't do that. So that's not going to happen. But there's going to be some things that I think actually go back, and then some of that is goods and services. I think that could start to kind of come back a little bit. I don't know if housing actually goes anywhere, but I think it perhaps levels off. And I'm sure Don from the Don Fron Show, who's in the chat, could probably attest to that. Let me know if I'm crazy or not on the housing front. That I think there could be at least a plateau of the cost of homes. I don't think it goes as crazy as it did over the last year and a half or so. So I think that those are some elements that you may want to consider, because we have supply chains that are easing some, and I think there's going to be a little bit of overspending on goods and services, goods in particular, especially as businesses try to replenish their inventory. And there's a lot of businesses out there that overbought to try to get product in the door. And so now I think that we're going to see some of that take place. Well, demand's still going to be strong, but it isn't going to be like it was. And I think that's when we can start to see inflation take at least a break. And if that happens, then maybe we don't see the type of rate hikes that some people are expecting. In 2018, we saw 4 rate hikes each quarter that the Fed met, and the stock market didn't do anything the first 3 times they raised rates. First 3 times they raised rates in 2018, nothing happened. Okay. The market just kept on doing its thing. The 4th time, market was like, okay, we're done. We're out. We saw a huge correction. It was about 10% or so, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but it was a pretty sharp correction. Nevertheless, I think it was pretty close to 8 to 10% correction. And the S&P actually closed red in 2018 on a year in which the economy was booming. Really great year for the economy. Unemployment was down pretty low, and so actually record lows in some cases. And so that's just goes to show you that not always is the economy and the stock market connected, for one, but there is going to be a time in which the stock market will cry uncle as far as interest rates are concerned. So when we're at virtually zero, what does that look like this year? Could it be 3 rate hikes? Maybe, but I think that Jerome Powell may have learned his lesson to at least a certain extent. He's done that already with just being as transparent as possible. I mean, he's definitely warned us that this taper was happening, and nobody was surprised when he announced the speeding up of the taper, and the market actually responded pretty positively to that because everybody recognizes what's going on. So I think that there's some certain elements here that maybe says that we only see 1 to 2 rate hikes this year and not 3 like the expectation is. If that happens, I think we'll be good. We'll be good. I know I'm just catching up to the chat, guys. You guys are really active in here. Which I'm loving, by the way. I hope that I can get to everybody. But let's see here. I am just scrolling through. I'm going to pick up. Darren says you've been right a hell of a lot more than you've been wrong. Yeah, I appreciate that. Ivan says, I'm not a trader, mostly long-term, once in a while so I can swing trade, but that's it. Yeah. And I think if you're a long-term trader, then you really have nothing to worry about. If you have some cash on the sidelines, maybe it might be advantageous to maybe have a little bit going into 2022. I'm not saying a lot, maybe 10% cash, 15% cash to kind of brace yourself for the volatility that I think we might actually end up seeing. Don says, I still like Apple and all those things are cool, but I don't buy off of news like that. Just think that money will be better elsewhere. But there's a reason I don't close Apple. It's still amazing. Yeah. We always say this, and Jim Cramer always says this too, is you just own Apple, right, Don? I mean, sure, there could be instances in which you see it kind of correct after it's gone crazy for a while. But the fact of the matter is that Apple for the last decade has averaged 30% returns. And over the last 5 years, it's averaged 500, or over the last 5 years, it's gone up 500%. So do you really want to be out of something that performs like that? You ride it till the wheels fall off. And I mean, it's been doing it for 10 years. So, I don't know if why anybody would say it's time to be out of Apple, or that it's going to underperform the market. It's outperformed the market, like I said, for the last 10 years or better. I know for the last 10 years. I don't know about beyond that, but yeah, it's done really well. It's just insane, the kind of performance that Apple has had. Just checking in on anybody's reflections of 2021. Here we go. Chris Edwards says, I learned in 2021 that I need to sell OTC stocks sooner. Yeah, not own the chaos stock, over the counter penny stocks. It's kind of how the name of this channel actually originated. So I think that's a great point. So over the counter penny stocks, if you guys don't know, those are stocks that aren't actually traded on the New York Stock Exchange. They're traded in what's called over the counter. So they're typically penny stocks for the most part. There's a couple that aren't. Some of them are foreign stocks, stuff that just doesn't trade on the New York Stock Exchange. You'll usually find in the OTC. And you bring up a good point, Chris, because over the counter penny stocks are super volatile. So you just got to be able to take your money when it's given to you. And if nothing else, oftentimes you'll see your investments double in over the counter penny stocks. And so what I always tell people is to make sure you get yourself into house money as quickly as possible. Take out your capital and then let your free shares ride and do what they're going to do. And then you sell whenever you're happy. If you're happy with the profit that's given to you, then take it. I can't tell you how many times people will just ride stocks, especially in the OTC, thinking that that's going to, change their zip code. This is the one, right? And it never is. It never is. And it's when you don't expect it to change your zip code is when it actually takes place, right? So, and then they end up riding it all the way back down to nothing, and usually end up selling it for a loss when they could have made a shit ton of money and distributed that however they wanted to. But yeah, that's a really good one. I like that, Chris Edwards. Rob T, appreciate the kind words, my man. Love it. Yeah. Bob K says, I'm one of the old guys that have been here since the Ricky days. Yes, if you guys don't know, I haven't talked about Ricky in a while, but I got my start with Ricky Gutierrez. We had a falling out. It's all good. But I appreciate Bob. Anybody else who's been here during any of the OGs. I know Alan watches still. Darren was close. I think Darren was he's the earlier one. I don't think he was around during Ricky, but yeah. Good stuff. I appreciate the love, Bob. Oliver Thorpe says, I learned in 2021, need to be better at taking some profit. I let quite a few things run up and then run back down. So back to square one again, need to scale out. Yeah. We always talk about that, scaling in too. Okay. And then scaling out, setting a plan. How much am I going to buy of this? And how much do I want to actually own? And then once you get to that point, how are you getting out? Knowing how you're going to get out before you even get in is super key. And take that advice in life as well. Knowing how you're going to make your exit. maybe not if you're getting married or something like that. I don't want to discourage that. But in business, right? In your job, what's the end game? And knowing that before you even get started is certainly a good place to start. So yes, scaling in, scaling out, it's usually the best way to go about doing that. I really like that. Darren says patience with caution. I like that. I like that too. Ivan Broski says, I only have 12 stocks long-term and lists them all there. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if you're younger. I don't know about Palantir. If you're not younger, I don't know about Palantir, but these are all good. These are all really good companies. Palantir, I think, will be fine, but if memory serves, Ivan, you're a younger guy, so you got plenty of time. I think Palantir will be fine. I like this, Don. You get what you paid for. There's a reason those stocks are cheap. Yep, for sure. For sure. Rate hikes equals XLF booming. Yes, I agree with that, Don. And I actually thought about coming up with a video. You can feel free to steal this idea. Thought about coming up with a video about the next $1 trillion stocks. And I briefly touched on this on some of our bold predictions, but I really truly believe that I think we'll see 3, maybe $4 trillion stocks next year. And one of them is a financial. And it's only trading at around $500 million market cap. But if what we think is happening happens next year, I think that the financials are going to have a crazy ass year. I really do believe that. Bring back the meme stock mania. That's funny pranks going wrong. Says I was doing okay, but this took big losses on Peloton and Penn. Hey, I took big losses on Penn too. I'm still hanging in there. I'm gonna hang on to that. Still, I'm not gonna give up on Penn. Another rough day for Penn because of the Arizona Bowl being canceled, which really sucks. That was gonna bring him a shit ton of money, so that's really tough for Penn. Hopefully, 2022 is their year. We'll see. I'm not giving up on that yet. I'm not really. All the casinos got hammered today. Speaking of which, just the overall market, let's just see how we close today. So I'm checking out SPY. Still ended up closing in the red, but only by 0.07%. That's nothing. Not worried about that. Not worried about that in the least. Going back to my real estate comment, Don says setting up for another spike, but rates will calm things down on that front. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. Yeah, that's kind of why. I agree with that. I think that's why I have my position in DR Horton. I think if you don't own a home builder right now, maybe worth taking a look at, or just owning the home builder ETF so you can have exposure to home builders in general. That would be the XHB. You could also go to the leveraged route if you want to get into NAIL. NAIL is the ticker symbol there. But I'm specifically in DR Horton. They're the biggest home builder in the country. And I think that the home builders, when you're in a world where where inventory is slim pickings as far as homes to buy are concerned, the only way to really kind of solve that issue is to what? Build more homes. So I think the home builders actually benefit greatly from that. And that's why I still own DR Horton. I'm actually on house money with DR Horton at this point, which is pretty awesome. I feel really good about that. Number one problem, Alan Greenspan says from Jeff Bonica, the number one problem in today's generation and economy is a lack of financial literacy. I don't know about that. You know what I think the number one problem is? And Elon Musk has touched on this. And a couple other people have too. You know what was actually alarming? Nobody was having babies last year. In a time where, and in 2020, in a time where, people are locked in their homes and got nothing better to do, you'd think there'd be a lot of, of that going on. But apparently there wasn't. There was no baby boom that came out of COVID, which I thought was interesting. And I think that could be a huge deflationary factor. That actually, I think, in my opinion, people got to start having babies, man. We'll talk about it. That'll be another topic of discussion for another time. But man, yes, big problem is financial literacy for sure. That still needs to be worked on. But let's not forget, we got to have babies so that more people can spend money. This economy, 70% of it is run on the consumer. If we don't have any consumers anymore, that's a problem. Big problem. Ivan says, I forgot I took profits on Rocket when I went to 40. Also, thank you, Ivan Broski. Thank you. Said, and a few others I'm forgetting, but I got lucky and sold before these high flyers went to 60 plus, down 60% plus. Yes. Everybody seems to forget that Rocket went up 100%, just about, right? Everybody likes to talk about the downfall. It's like, well, did you take any money when it ran up? Well, no. Like, well, whose fault is that really? Housekeeping says my winners this year were NVIDIA, BLDR, and DOGZ. Nicely done, sir. Ivan also ended up saying the biggest thing to learn was that it doesn't matter if the stock is at 400. It can go down to 40, 100%. Especially if you're a GameStop shareholder. Especially if the PE is ridiculous. Correct. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people got lessons in valuations of stocks this year. I would say that that's probably a big learning lesson that people got. Housekeeping says 2021 was my first year investing. Well, I'm glad you survived. You made it, Housekeeping. So I learned a ton. Feel great that I found this channel before it developed bad habits. I appreciate that, man. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm here. That's why I decided to do this, to be on YouTube and turn it into a career and do all of those things, is so I could just help people. So I can help people like you. And that's why I want to keep going and keep doing this thing. The only way, though, that this channel keeps surviving is if A, you hit that thumbs up, and B, you go to ownthechaos.com and get your watch list there. So if you want to become a Chaos Crew member, the link's down in the description. You can either do that or you can hit the join button next to subscribe if it's easier for you to do it there. But every day we put out a watch list for our Chaos Crew members. It's $4.99 a month and it's super cheap. Might not be that significant to you, but it means the world to us, and it just helps support the channel, the studio you see behind you, all that good stuff. So we'd love to have you guys join the Chaos Crew, get that free watch list that we put out, or get the watch list that we put out every morning. We do have a free version as well if you want to check that out, but we have a really detailed one, and it just costs $5, but it helps us out a ton. So go there, help support the channel. We certainly would appreciate it. Don says, I come on and say what I think. Oh, yeah. Rudy, every once in a while, you sit on the OWV and it runs. Yeah, OWV. I know our Chaos Crew folks are just like bathing in the piles of cash that they're making on OWV. Hit all-time highs again today. Unbelievable. Yikes. Yeah, see, this is a good example of taking money when it's given to you. Up 46K on MMAT, never sold. Now he's only up like 4K. That sucks. Yes, Don, you fall into that category on the Ricky days. Although I feel like we just crossed paths on the Ricky days. Like you kind of were coming in as I was going out type of deal. But either way, we were around the same time. Let's see here. Just checking in on some of the other comments. Rudy Brown's JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs. You're gonna make me give it to you, right? Aren't you? So if you guys recall, I was talking about the financial company that I think actually hits $1 trillion market cap. It's JP Morgan. JP Morgan I think has a market cap right now around $500 million. I think they crush it in 2022. Potentially, this is another bold prediction, but given the way the financials are moving in the direction that we're headed in, especially as interest rates go up, I think JP Morgan certainly has the potential to make a huge move and potentially double. I mean, we saw Goldman Sachs go up 50% this year. Who's to say that JP Morgan can't go up 100% next year, especially in an environment where interest rates are going up, right? So, yeah, I think it's going to be JP Morgan. But I got more information as to why I think that'll happen. People can't afford to have babies as they are putting it all back in the stock market and crypto. Yeah, I was going to say people can totally afford to have babies. It's just that they don't want to. They'd rather do more stuff with their money. You can call it selfishness, whatever. I don't have any babies right now. I have my own reasons, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic that people just aren't having babies like they used to. Like I don't know. I'm a millennial, so my grandmother, she had like 9 siblings. I mean, anybody else in that boat who have grandparents that just had a shit ton of kids or shit ton of siblings? 9 siblings. My stepfather, one of 6. I'm one of 6. So like, we're all right. If I don't have kids, it's whatever. Just kidding. I actually do want a family, not 6 kids. I don't want no 6 kids. That ain't happening. Jonathan Schreiber, thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Lots of words of encouragement and support from my COVID jail days. So I am getting there. I'm not quite 100%. I'm still struggling. This whole show, I've been struggling not to just start hacking into this microphone. It's one of those situations in which, like, if I breathe in too deep, I'm just going to go into a hacking fit and just cough like crazy. So I'm trying not to do that. I'm still a little bit nasally, but thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. We're your babies. I'm down with that. I'm down with that. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Same 10 on my dad's side as a kid. Yeah. So I'm telling you, like, yeah. Robert Faustus is 10 on my dad's side. Yeah, right. When we were, when our parents, our grandparents, they were just cranking out kids, baby factories. Oh my God. JB Smith, 15. Holy shit, man. I bet you're Mexican and Catholic. Just going out on a limb. My great grandmother had 18 kids. They needed the help on the farm. Yes, that was actually a thing. I mean, they had kids because they needed kids, right? And here's the other thing too about back in the day having all those kids. A lot of them didn't make it, right? There was polio. There's all kinds of stuff that could just kill you back in the day. So you had to have a bunch of kids. So at least some of them survived. My God, what a time to be alive back then. JB Smith, I knew it. Yeah, he's Catholic too. But yeah, Troy Gates still says he feels like a kid. All good stuff. All right, guys. Appreciate the engagement today. You guys were wonderful. Only 49 likes though. Let's see if we can get the likes up. We got 9 of you hanging out in the house. I wasn't expecting a huge turnout in the live stream this week. Just because, it's between holidays. There's not a whole lot of people that are really interested in the market anyway, but that's fine. You guys are the real ones though. So thanks so much for hanging out. I certainly appreciate it. You guys are great. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're not subscribed already, please make sure you do so and hit that notification bell to get notified when I go live at 3:30 tomorrow. I can't wait to see you. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye. I need to find the button. There it is.